Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Viceroy of Verisimilitude, Robert Meyer Burnett, here for the John Campea Show for another companion video. As you know, John has been in the process of moving, and he's backed up with questions from you imagination connoisseurs, and he graciously, because I love it when he does this, was it graciously? But he asked me, he didn't do it sheepishly. No, he knows I love doing it. So John asked me if I would fill in and answer some questions for you out there, you faithful viewers who tune in every single day from all around the world, and we very much appreciate it. So let me get on with these questions. All about WandaVision, and I think other things too. Randall sends in a tip and says, "Hey John, did you watch the Tiger Woods 2-part documentary on HBO? It was amazing. Made me rewatch Michael Jordan's Last Dance on Netflix. Also, thoughts on Disney's Miracle? Kurt Russell locker room speech still gives me chills. Well, let me tell you, I love Miracle. It's great, and Kurt Russell can do no wrong. I have not watched the Tiger Woods documentary, but my mother has, because in our household growing up, golf was pretty much the religion, and my mom will watch anything to do with golf, and she very much enjoyed it, although I did love the Last Dance documentary on MJ. I thought that was an amazing doc. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, "Hey John, slight spoilers. I'm convinced Mephisto is involved in WandaVision Episode 1, The Devil's in the Details comment, and the toaster had an upside-down 666. Episode 2, the bunny was named Senor Scratchy, and one of Mephisto's aliases is Nick Scratch." You know, John and I have talked about this. Who knows? Who knows? But and a lot of people are saying Mephisto. I find it hard to believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe would go that heavily in one direction. I mean, obviously, we know they're going to make a Blade movie, so Supernatural plays into that somehow. But are they going to go full on, well, the devil? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. Jury's still out. I don't quite believe it yet. But, of course, there's a lot of talk, a lot of spoilers online. Fernad sends in a tip and says, there's no number 6 on the clock. Finally, in episode 3, the doctor says he's going to Bermuda, which is known as the Devil's Triangle. Plus, in the Loki trailer, there's an image of a demon thing at 1 minute and 56 seconds. I think they're setting him up. I could be crazy. I mean, you never know. You never know. Could very well be. I guess you were the anonymous, Fernad. Johnny Weiner sends in a tip and says, "Can't wait for Captain Kong versus Ironzilla Civil War. I think people might not be too impressed with WandaVision because the show wasn't meant to come out first. It was Black Widow and the Eternals. Also, Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first MCU Disney Plus series, not WandaVision." Yeah, but you know what? We know that WandaVision takes place about 3 weeks after the end of Endgame, which means it takes place way before Spider-Man Far From Home. So I think they figured they could release it when they released it, and I don't know if that's going to play into the MCU timeline, because I think it has its own little place. It seems to it, at any rate. So hopefully we'll see. Preston Lyon sends in a $5 tip and says, "Hey, John, I had a theory about the missing posters from the set photos of Spider-Man 3. We know that things are being pulled to our Marvel universe like Electro and Doc Ock. Is it possible that people from our universe are being pulled into different universes?" That's a good bet. I think you definitely have something there. You probably are right. I mean, because who's to say, why does somebody have to come to us? We can always go to them, right? Tired Nemesis sends in a tip and says, "Hello, John. Hope you're having a great day. Just a side thought. If blending human and Kryptonian DNA created Doomsday, I have a bad feeling about Clark and Lois's potential kids in the current DCEU. Yeah, but then Doomsday wasn't he tortured? I mean, in his origin, he was bred to be the monster that he is. So you never know. JMeister25 sends in a tip and says, "There's 3 visions. Real Vision is dead. Fake Vision is what Wanda knows from her memories, who is inquisitive and able to put things together. And when Fake Vision gets too close to the truth, Wanda turns fake Vision into WandaVision, her perfect vision." Ooh, I like that. I never thought of that. That's pretty good. The Everything Nerd sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John and Rob, if he's there, I am here. Have either of you seen the Fat Man movie with Mel Gibson and Walter Goggins?" I have. Mel is a great grizzled Santa, and Goggins is a great over-the-top villain. Loved your documentary and hope you have a great day. Thanks. I liked Fat Man. What a crazy take on a Santa Claus story. I thought it was great. Arun Babaraj Arun Babaraj. What a cool name. After Godzilla pinning Kong to the ground, Kong, save Mothra. Godzilla, why did you say that name? I can't wait to catch this in theaters. I don't know why the kaiju are now Muppets, but there you go. Can't wait to catch this in theaters, hopefully. Avengers Infinity War trailer is still my favorite, though, as it gave nothing away, but gave so much footage. Yeah, it did. It was pretty good. Doolittle Sucks sends in a tip and says, what do you think Sony will do with Men in Black? In my opinion, there hasn't been a good one since the first, and the last one flopped, but not as hard as Doolittle, though. Will they bring Smith and Jones back again? 21 Jump Street crossover, another reboot, or is the franchise dead? You know, you're only as good as your last movie, I think, and I don't think that the last Men in Black film was particularly good, even though I kind of enjoyed it, but it certainly wasn't hitting the heights that the first franchise, or the first entry in the franchise did, so I would say probably not. We won't see it again. Infinity War is better than Endgame, sends in a tip. Maybe late to the party on this, but the triple meaning title of WandaVision may just answer our $1 million question. I'm increasingly bearish on Mephisto. 1, play on the word television. 2, Wanda and Vision. 3, Wanda's vision, Wanda's reality. I agree. I think that's absolutely what that title means, and I'm here for it. Absolutely. Ryan Lohner sends in a tip and says, I checked out the introduction of Shockmaster, and I have to say, even if it had gone perfectly, there's no way in hell he would have been taken seriously. He's literally a stormtrooper helmet covered in glitter. The entrance was the best thing for him. To be honest, I'm not really sure what Shockmaster is. Is that a wrestling thing? It sounds like it was, but please forgive my ignorance. Quintus Deshoon sends in a tip and said, G'day, John. Quick question. With word that Michael B. Jordan is to direct Creed 3, what % would you give him? Would you give that Jordan also directs the Static Shock film he's producing? Have a great day, all. And everyone, please mask up so we can beat this damn thing already. I don't know, Quintus. I mean, the thing about Static Shock is you're dealing with any superhero movie has visual effects and things like that. And while Michael B. Jordan certainly was on set for visual effects for things like Black Panther, I just don't know if, as a director, he would feel comfortable enough to jump in. Maybe, but I think he would do Creed first and then get that experience and then sort of expand his directorial horizons. But you never know. You never know. Ryan Lohner says, following up on my comment about Paranoia Agent, yes, people sucked into their nostalgic fantasies by a toy dog. I love Paranoia Agent. And people's lives are improved after getting hit by a gold baseball bat are the same show, because that's how wild Satoshi Kon stuff is. I recently just picked up the steelbook of Paranoia Agent. I'm a huge Satoshi Kon fan. May he rest in peace. Millennium Actress, Perfect Blue, big fan. Arj Kang says, with the Grim Reaper's helmet showing up in Episode 2's cartoon intro and looking at Agnes's brooch, which very much looks like it has someone holding a scythe, do you think Ralph could be him? Also, looking at the story feature at the timestamp 24 seconds, you can see Wonder Man pick behind Jack Schaefer, who in the comics is related to Grim Reaper and Vision. Also, do you think with Wiccan and Speed, Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, Ironheart, and Cassie Lang being recast, that the next Avengers outing is the Young Avengers? I think it absolutely could be. I think everything you just said is very interesting. I wouldn't put anything past. To me, I feel after 4 episodes, it's 9 episodes, right? So the 5th episode is our halfway point. I feel like it's too early to tell. But we shall see. Speednet says, hi, John. WandaVision has become my favorite new show. It gives me vibes of the first season of Lost with the feeling that there's a multi-layered puzzle that we're figuring out. I wonder how deep the rabbit hole goes. What do you think? Well, I to be honest, I think the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. I think we're in for a lot of... Look, I'm not going to comment on the spoilers that were dropped over the weekend that deal with Episode 6. I'm going to stay away from those to see actually how it all plays out. We shall see. But I think the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. James Hoffman sends in a tip and says, that Kong versus Godzilla trailer was epic. My favorite moment was probably Kong just punching Godzilla right in the face on the aircraft carrier. It's true. Other favorite moment was Kong deflecting Godzilla's blue atomic ray. James, right there with you. Cannot wait. James goes on to say, did you see the new trailer for the upcoming CW Superman and Lois show? It had a Man of Steel vibe. Trailer looked good. I think CW will treat Superman better in his own show since he is the main lead. You always make the main lead look good. Look, I'm hoping that Superman isn't a jobber, as John says in the show. And I have to tell you, I liked that trailer quite a bit. I thought the TV show looked pretty damn good. I'm definitely going to check it out. At least I'll stick with it for the first half of the season, see where it goes, because, hey, I love me some Superman, right? Wyatt Bender sends in a tip and says, "Hey, John, Kevin Spacey has been my favorite actor growing up, or one of my favorite actors growing up. I've become obsessed with his amazing imitations of Walken, Johnny Carson, and Jack Nicholson. Even when he went through the allegations, I hope he makes a huge comeback one day with a bang." I actually got to hang out with Kevin Spacey for a while when I was working. He was down in Sydney, Australia for 6 weeks when I was working on Superman Returns, and I went out to dinner with him, hung out with him in evenings, obviously interviewed him and all those kinds of things. Yeah, I think Kevin Spacey is an incredibly talented actor, but he does certainly have his own personal demons that I hope he deals with. But I really do. I think he's an incredibly talented actor, and I really love his performances. I mean, I love Jack Vincennes, the character he plays in LA Confidential. I love that character a lot, and I thought he did a great job. I'd love to see him back on screen again. Hopefully, we'll see. Wyatt Bender sends in a tip and says, "I've only seen the Kong Skull Island trailer. Oh, I've only seen Kong Skull Island, and I've never seen the 2014 Godzilla and King of the Monsters. I'm a fan of both King Kong and Godzilla because of the old films. Should I watch the new films before Godzilla vs. Kong to understand the story?" Hell yes, Wyatt. What are you waiting for? I know what John says about Godzilla King of the Monsters, the second one. Watch it. And Kong Skull Island is a hoot. The first Godzilla, the 2014 Godzilla, is fun, but it's okay. But I like the other two movies a lot more, to be honest. Michael Botcher sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John and Rob. After watching episode 3 of WandaVision, I went back to watch the trailers. In the scene where Agnes sees Vision in his Halloween outfit, it's almost as if she immediately snapped back into reality and remembers Vision and says he's dead. That could very well be. Can't wait to see what happens there." Wyatt Bender sends in another tip. "For TV, I only have streaming. I have HBO Max, Showtime, Starz, Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, Disney+, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime. There are so many shows I want to watch, I can't decide. I finished Sopranos and Game of Thrones. Any show recommendations?" Well, do you have HBO Max? You have to watch The Wire. The Wire is one of my favorite shows of all time. If you like The Sopranos, The Wire is the flip side. Basically, The Wire is the story of an American city, of Baltimore, and how it deals with. It starts out with the police investigating drug dealers, but it gets so much bigger than that. Fascinating stuff. I would check out The Wire. I love The Wire. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. If you haven't watched Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, get on that too, son. Othello, tip $10, says, "Isn't it incredible that Brady, who is clearly the GOAT, is about to face off against Mahomes, who is the only quarterback right now that has the potential to surpass Brady as the GOAT? Remember, Mahomes is only 25 years old and going for his second ring. Dude, it's incredible. It's incredible. I can't wait until next week. What a fun time we're going to have." Wait, it is next week, right? Or is it this week? I don't remember. Wyatt Bender sends in another tip and says, "I think the only DC CW show I still like is The Flash. Season 1 is still the best season. My favorite season of Arrow is season 2. The other shows I never gave a shot at. I didn't like how they botched Superman. Disappointed with Crisis. What's happening?" Yeah, look, man, it's tough. It is tough to do those shows. I mean, it really is. It's tough to do those shows. And, I always hope they're going to be better. But maybe Superman and Lois is going to be the one that takes them over the top. Diego Maguino says, "Hi, John. In Rotten Tomatoes, overall reviews for a season don't differentiate whether a critic has seen the whole season or the first number of episodes. Isn't it like comparing someone who watched the whole movie to another who only saw half? Thoughts?" I think you're right, man. I don't think you should be able to review a television show unless you've seen the entire season. I don't think it's fair. I think you're right. I don't think it's fair. Mumra sends in a tip and says, "Hi, John. Have you seen the trailer for the new Shudder film called Psycho Gorman? Looks awesome. A mix of Power Rangers and Jeepers Creepers drenched in 80s nostalgia. Check it out and let us know what you think." I watched the trailer for Psycho Gorman like 8 times. Basically, these kids unearth this alien entity that's millions of years old that's been put in the earth to slumber, and they wake him up. And he's this murderous being, but since this little girl has control over him, he has to do what she says. It looks so bonkers and so much fun. I can't wait to see Psycho Gorman. I have to look. Did it drop on Shudder, or where's it at? I gotta find it. Jesse sends a tip and says, was able to scratch 2 movies off my must-see list this weekend with a double feature of Hell or High Water and Gone Girl. And while I thought Hell and High Water was amazing, I'm loving Taylor Sheridan's career so far, I was not prepared for Gone Girl. Gone Girl rules. Never have I literally sat on the edge of my seat during a movie until now. Definitely one of the darker movies I've seen as of late, and it's a film I haven't been able to stop thinking about and will still think about for a long time to come. Well, Jesse, how about that amazing Amy? Wasn't she just the kind of girl you hope to one day take home to mom? Or maybe you are a girl, and I'm assuming your name is Jesse. You could be either one, but you know what I mean. Amazing Amy. Wow. I love Gone Girl. You know, I read that book in one sitting. I read the book before I saw the movie, and so I knew it was coming. But the book plays with you the same way that the movie did. And when I got to this point in the book where things flipped, I was like, wait, what? I love Gone Girl. David Fincher, power. Joseph sends in a tip and says, I always thought that Dustin was one of the best 155ers to do it, and boy, did he prove it. Everyone thought he would get KO in the first 2 rounds, but man, did he prove the world wrong. Never seen anyone do that to Conor. What a great display of boxing. You know what? That fight was incredible. It was incredible. It was amazing. And you are right. John Salvi sends in a tip and says, hey, John, Hondo is my favorite character from the Star Wars animated series. Chance will see him in live action. I wouldn't put it past anyone. Also, I know you love D&D and The Princess Bride. There is a Princess Bride board game I think you and Anne would like. There are minis of all the characters. Really? I didn't know that. My girlfriend loves that. Loves The Princess Bride as well. I actually have it on 4K right back here. James Gold sends in a tip and says, John, one of my most anticipated movies right now is Nomadland. I can't wait. Directed by Chloe Zhao, who also directed Marvel's The Eternals. If Frances McDormand were to win Best Actress, she would have 3 Best Actress wins, second only to Katharine Hepburn. She also has 3 supporting nominations. She is vastly underrated in public dialogue. Frances McDormand rules. I love her so much. She can do no wrong. I can't wait to see Nomadland 2. Arch Kang says, hi, John, and possibly Rob. Yes, possibly me. God damn it. Have you seen Corridor Crew's CGI deepfake Luke Skywalker video? In my opinion, it looks so much more real. I find it amazing how the channel, with much more limited resources, funds, can produce something better than a billion-dollar company. Now, wait a minute. Let me just say this, because everyone's always saying this to me, too. Well, how come this deepfake looks better, Rob, than the stuff that we get? Because they're finishing things at 4K. At 4K resolution, and unless you're working in 4K resolution, and finishing that way, it's really hard to make things a deep fake look great at 4K. It has to hold up at 4K, and it's a lot harder to do than you might think. Toby Ingram sends in a tip and says, evening, John from the UK. I just wanted to ask, what are your views or opinions on Vanessa Kirby? For me, I think she's a wonderful actress and could really shoot to a level like Kate Winslet. She's in that new movie with Shia LaBeouf. I can't wait to see that. I know in the that was my editorializing. I know in the UK we love her and can't wait to see what's next. Yeah, I think she's great. I love Vanessa Kirby, and I think it's called Pieces of a Woman. Is that the name of the movie? Can't wait to see it. Semper Virens sends in a tip and says, Vision has to be an illusion. Happen to notice Vision's magician name in episode 2? Illusion. I also think Beekeeper is more of a symbol. This reality is a hive, and Wanda is the queen bee, controlling it all. Sword is trying to contain it like a beekeeper. I agree. There's probably a lot of reality in what you just said, and I look forward to finding out what it is, but I don't think you're too far off. My Godzilla... Oh, wait. Hang on. This is Brian Learns Stuff. Sends in a tip and says, my Godzilla vs. Kong theory. Godzilla in the trailer is Mechagodzilla in a skin suit like in a previous film. That's why it's attacking humans for seemingly no reason. No real versus between Kong and actual Godzilla. Would you be bummed? Thanks. No, I wouldn't be bummed. I wouldn't be bummed at all because it's still cool and I want monster fighting action. And I do think Godzilla, the actual Godzilla, will throw down with Kong at some point in the movie. Wyatt Bender sends in a tip and says, as a fan of basketball, I haven't watched a single NBA game at all since the Seattle Sonics moved to Oklahoma City as the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm from Seattle, and I remember during the 78-79 season when the Seattle Supersonics won the world championship with downtown Freddie Brown and Jack Sikma and the Slick Quats. Those are the days, man. I love other teams like the Cavaliers, the Celtics, the Heat, the Clippers, the Lakers. I just miss my Sonics. I miss my Sonics too, Wyatt. You and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Lee Crow sends in a tip. It says, "Hey, John and friends, 2 things with WandaVision. First, if every episode is a decade, that means that by episode 8, we're up to the 2020s and kind of out of decades. Do you think this means that we'll get a pure real-world episode in the last 1 or 2? Well, we got a pretty good pure real-world episode in episode 4, didn't we? I don't know where it's going, but I think we're going to see the real world and Wanda's world blend more and more as the show goes on." Lee Crow sends in a tip and says, "Second, for the 7th episode of the 2010s, I hope they go full Game of Thrones and Herb betrays Agnes, Vision's severed head ends up on a stake outside Dottie's house, and Wanda burns down the town in anger." I could see her going all full-on Khaleesi. I could see that. War Doctor 10, John Hurt, says, "Hi, John. Now, I know you don't watch Doctor Who, but I'm of the mindset that if you sit down and watch it, you will thoroughly enjoy it. They always get A-list talent, and it has some of the best dialogue when it comes to speeches." Who doesn't like Doctor Who? John, do you not like Doctor Who? Shame, John Campea. But you liked old Doctor Who, right? You know. Jose Hernandez sends in a tip and says, "Over or under 10% a post-credit scene in WandaVision with Doctor Strange and his involvement with Spider-Man." Oh, I think there's going to be some. I don't know. I think Doctor Strange's going to show up in the show. But I don't know. We'll see. Aaron Schroeder sends in a tip and says, "Mark this day down when I told you that the Godzilla Kong is fighting is not actually Godzilla, but rather Mecha Godzilla made to look like Godzilla. The real Godzilla won't appear until right before the 3rd act, and then he and Kong will team up." No, I think, people are saying that. I think Godzilla and Kong are going to go at it. I think there's going to be some fighting involved. The real Godzilla against the real Kong. Garrett Couch sends in a tip and says, "Anyone catch Mecha Godzilla behind those people running down the stairs in the background? Oh, yes. Can't wait to see it in the theater. Me too. Please, LA. Please open up your theaters before March. Please. What do I have to do?" Jose Hernandez sends in another tip and says, "Paul Bettany said in an interview that there was almost a post-credit scene in Avengers Endgame where Wanda opens a body bag and Vision was in the bag, and that would have been a tease for WandaVision." Ooh, that would have been depressing. I liked it better with Steve Rogers with with our lovely, lovely, lovely founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fievel Moskowitz sends in a tip and says, "While watching the trailer, I felt the tone shifted when the music started coming on. Specifically, the last half of the trailer. It reminded me of a pay-per-view Fight Night promo. I think that's exactly what they wanted you to feel. The hype is real, and I will be ordering my next UFC match on March 26th. Love it. Jose Hernandez sends in a tip and says, "This year, the Super Bowl and WrestleMania take place at Raymond James Stadium. And have you and Ann watched AEW? And if so, do you have favorite AEW wrestlers?" I have not watched AEW wrestlers. I can't speak for John and Ann, but I've never done that. But you know what? It sounds to me like Raymond James Stadium is going to have, well, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking. Sam Fisher sends in a tip and says, "I hope this new Harry Potter series is about the creation of Hogwarts because that is something I've always wanted to see. I know a little bit about it, but I would love to see it fleshed out. But that might be better as a limited series or a single movie." Well, I think why not do a whole Harry Potter series of a Harry Potter universe on HBO Max? I think that's a good idea. But I like that, the founding of Hogwarts. I think that'd be a cool miniseries. TH tips $5 and says, "I will disagree with Rob. Keep JK way out of the series. Her views are more than harmful. All the cast of the movies have spoken against her, and whoever gets involved can be tainted if they don't be clear that they don't agree with that woman." I don't know, man. You can't do a Harry Potter show without J.K. Rowling. It's her. She created it. So regardless of whether you like her beliefs or not, she has to be involved with the series somehow, unless they just back up a giant Brinks truck to her house and dump a wheelbarrow, a dump truck size pile of money at her. But it is her creation. You can't go make Harry Potter without J.K. Rowling. You just can't. Sam Fisher sends in a tip and says, "Since you're a good Canadian boy, I was wondering if you've ever seen the comedy series Letterkenny. It's about the antics of the residents of Letterkenny, a small rural community in Canada. It follows a guy named Wayne and his sister Katie and his friends Dan and Daryl. It's because of John himself that I saw Letterkenny. Letterkenny has, I've watched, I think, 4 seasons. I'm up to season 4. And there's 10 seasons or something, 9 seasons. That show is hilarious. It's hilarious. I love Letterkenny. I can't get enough. P sends in a tip and says, Geraldine is a reference to Geraldine Jones, a character by Flip Wilson from the 70s show who won a Grammy for his album, The Devil Made Me Buy This Dress. I remember Flip Wilson. I remember Geraldine. I'm that old. I used to love Flip Wilson. Loved it. Hideaway Killa sends in a tip and says, yeah, I made a lot of money on AMC stock today. Good for you, man. Jordan Bow sends in a tip and says, hey, John, over or under 20% Evan Peters plays Tommy, a.k.a. Speed, as an adult in WandaVision. Again, having heard spoilers this weekend, unfortunately, I refuse to answer that question, but I don't think Evan Peters is playing Tommy, a.k.a. Speed, as an adult in WandaVision. I think he's playing somebody else. Xavier Prime sends in a tip and says, hey guys, I'm looking at starting a YouTube channel and getting into making short films. Well, I hope you've gone to my YouTube channel, the Burnett Work, to watch. I'm currently having a film festival for my viewers, the First Intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. And right now there's 52 entries up on my YouTube page, the Burnett Work. It's the playlist at the very top. I'm not great with tech and not rich, but what laptop would be a good place to start with those goals in mind? You got me inspired. Thanks for such a great show. I mean, you know what I started using? I had a Macintosh MacBook Pro, which I really liked, and it worked really, really well for me, but it might be too expensive. And I've been a Mac guy for a long, long time, so I always say get a MacBook. But you know, you can also, with an external mic, you can stream from a phone if you don't want to spend money right away on a new computer. If you have got a good phone, obviously, like an iPhone, you can get a little a tripod and use that too. But congratulations! I love hearing you say that you're doing that. Good luck to you. Keep us posted on what you do. Melanie L sends in a tip and says, leaving a tip just for that Godzilla versus Kong reaction. Man, Melanie, I got to tell you, I was howling. I don't know if you could see me I was laughing. That was so funny. John's reaction was, I mean, I love John's reaction to that trailer. That was hilarious. Stubble McShave says, just to get perspective, Tom Cruise was 23 years old when Top Gun was released. He turned 24 later that year. Top Gun 2 will arrive in theaters 35 years after the original. That means that Top Gun 2 is released 1.5 times Age of Tom in Top Gun after the first movie. That is crazy. That is crazy. That's wow. And I want to see that movie so bad. Marco Lanny sends in a tip and says, what legal options do people have outside the U.S. to watch this? I know the illegal options, but I want to support this. Do they not have any contingency to get this out worldwide? I don't know if you're talking about Godzilla or WandaVision, but you know, they're trying to roll this stuff out, and I think they're if you're talking about Godzilla versus Kong, they are going to release it worldwide, as far as I know. Mr. Mystery says, I think you're right about the Kong trailer. Before this trailer, I felt like nobody even knew or cared about the movie. Yesterday, it was trending all day, and I saw tons of chatter. I totally agree. That's what a trailer is supposed to do. It comes out of nowhere. It blows your mind. I was going to say blows your brains out. You don't want a trailer to do that because then you can't watch the actual movie. But, yeah, so I think it did what a great trailer does, and it did just that. Andre sends in a tip and says, hi, John, did you see that Peacock has bought WWE Network? What do you think will be the impact of this, if any, in the streaming wars? Thanks for everything you do and love the show. Well, you know, it depends, again, how they promote it. I think that if they bought the whole network, they're gonna put some money behind it and make sure that it thrives. I think that's good news for the WWE. We'll see, but I think it's can only be a good thing. Jason the 13th sends in a tip and says, am I the only one getting Batman v Superman vibes from GVK? The two Titans fight each other only for the real villain to show up in Act 3? Well, you know that's going to happen because it's a kaiju movie, man. You got to have another monster they can turn around and both fight. That's like tradition. I'm so hyped to see them dismantle Mechagodzilla. Kong, save Mothra. Godzilla, why did you say that name? Boy, that's a joke that's gotten old very, very fast, but it is still funny. Russell Amador sends in a tip and says, hey, John, I know you've got the moving going on this week, so I'm sure lots on the agenda. Congrats on that again, by the way. Any chance you're going to tune in to the Little Things Friday on HBO Max? Super stoked for this. You know what, Russell? I don't want to burst your bubble. I was super stoked for it, too, but I watched it and I felt, that's it? You know, in a post-Seven world, or even in a post-Kiss the Girls or Along Came a Spider or The Bone Collector or any other dozens of serial killer movies we've seen, or even Russell Mulcahy, director of Highlander's movie Resurrection with Christopher Lambert, I felt the little things, while having great performances, was a little... It felt like an extended holiday episode of a CBS police procedural with A-list acting. So I was pretty disappointed in it. Luis Rosario says, "Hi, John. Big fan since AMC. I'm going through a hard time in my life and a bad breakup. I am sorry for that. Listening to your show every day is something that is helping me get through, and that is why I love you. Thank you for what you do and for our community." Also, I don't know. Also, over under 1%, both Kong and Godzilla's mothers will have the same name. Always with this joke. Listen, Lewis, I'm sorry to hear that you went through a bad breakup. Nothing anybody says. Everyone will always say comforting words, but it still sucks and it still hurts. I understand. I hope you make it through, buddy. And you can always write us and spill your heart to us, and we'll listen. We're here for you, man. But don't make any more jokes about Batman v Superman and Mothra, please. Tristan Larison sends in a tip and says, "All respect to you. I really don't want to see Rowling involved in the new show. It's not TMZ bullshit or ideological fascism to resist transphobia. Rowling is still wealthy beyond most people's wildest dreams and in no ways a victim. Am I crazy?" I don't think you're crazy, and since you're literally addressing the same things that I said, I think, look, one of the things that we have in this country, we have the constitutional guarantee of free speech. Now, that doesn't mean hate speech, but it means you can have opinions. And I think that, the thing about Harry Potter, and I've said this before, it's J.K. Rowling's property. She created it. And I think, she might have problematic views on certain things, but that doesn't mean that that's what she has, that everything she views is problematic. She did, after all, create the Harry Potter franchise. And I think that, there are people that have views on certain subjects that I don't agree with, but I agree with their right to be able to express those views. I can choose not to patronize their establishments or buy their art or whatever, but the fact is J.K. Rowling created Harry Potter. It is hers. And, obviously she's protected, but I think that does Harry Potter... can it exist outside of it? Do we pillory the art, or can we look at art outside of the artist? It's an age-old question. It's one to look into, but I do respect you though for saying so, and I don't think J.K. Rowling didn't start out wealthy. She was a single mom when she started writing those books, and she became wealthy after that. But she did start from humble beginnings, so it's a tough one. It's a tough call. Mr. Intellectual sends in a tip and says, "You and I know that movies are subjective. If a college professor teaches you that art is objective, should they be fired? I say yes. It insults their intelligence, and it is a dangerous mindset to have." I disagree. I do believe that there is an objectivity to areas of art. For instance, when it comes to a movie, you might not like a movie for whatever reason, but that doesn't mean that the movie isn't good. A movie could be very, very good, and you just don't like it. But does that mean the movie's bad? So it's your opinion, your experience of the world is subjective to you. But that doesn't mean that the art being commented on, the film, the book, whatever, that doesn't take away. I don't think that really affects whether the art is actually good or not. And I know I differ than John, and I differ from you with this, but I do believe that. Dan Ketchum says, "It's odd how in every episode they stress Vision's speed, which wasn't a thing before. Could this Vision be an amalgamation of Vision and Quicksilver? Disgusting, yes, but this hillbilly relationship between Wanda and Pietro does happen in the comics." Could be. I think that's a really interesting observation. I never thought about that before. Plot twisties. One of two. "Hey, John and Rob, the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer dropped, and I have so many questions. Is Kong an honorary Asgardian? Is he even worthy to wield Stormbreaker? What did you think of how they leveled up Kong, to make him as menacing as Godzilla? Even though I find some of the creative choices very curious, I still had to change my underwear after seeing the trailer. Stay safe, folks, and bring on the filthy." Well, plot twisties, I'm right there with you. That's pretty much how I felt watching the King Kong versus Godzilla trailer. It looks great. We'll have to see. How did Kong get so big? We'll find out. Some dude sends in a tip and says, I wonder how much the reception of the previous films affected the impact of Godzilla vs. Kong trailer. If this trailer was released in a world without the preceding legendary MonsterVerse films, do you think it would be nearly as exciting to watch? I think so, because everybody knows King Kong and Godzilla, and to see that trailer, it would have been like seeing Freddy versus Jason. I think most people would have been here for it. I was gonna love it anyway. Hey, John and company, FYI, The Expanse has great season 5 after shows on the Amazon Prime YouTube channel. I've been watching them. I think they're great. First episode hosted by actor Wes Chatham, who plays Amos, and author Ty Franick. Cast members make guest appearances. Great show. Felipe, stop eavesdropping. Sit down. Hi, Ann. Oh, that was Roll of the Egg said that. Thank you, Roll of the Egg. Trigpool sends in 1 of 3. Hey, John, hope the movie went well. I was wondering how you solve a problem like Black Panther. At some point, the MCU will have to address Chadwick's absence, and I wonder whether they might find the answer in Thor 4. Marvel likes to add a twist at the end of their second acts, and perhaps it could be that on his journey to end Bast, Panther God, Gore has killed T'Challa. Not only would this explain what has happened to the King of Wakanda, but it would make Bale a credible villain and make for an epic and emotional third act for Love and Thunder. That's actually a great idea. I love that idea. This would also help Ryan Coogler out, as it would let him focus more on the fallout from T'Challa's death as opposed to writing in the character's exit in Black Panther 2. Love the show and keep up the great work. Well, Trigpool, that is a very elegant solution, and kudos to you, sir. Lieutenant Yodata Skyriker sends in, Hi, John. With the movie theater business declining, could you see movie studios buying out theaters and playing their movies? They could even have gift shops selling their toys and novelties. Do you think this is too far-fetched to happen? Thoughts? I just don't know if they want to get into the movie theater business. It's a tough call. I don't think they do, because that's what their streaming services are. If the movie theaters all went out of business, I don't know if the movie theaters would be coming back. Not with all the streaming services. I really don't know. Garden Variety Vagabond sends in a tip and says, Hey, John, in your WandaVision Part 1, you referenced the use of the term limited edition. While looking at the second layer of hell, that is the CW seed, I noticed they used the term creatively to refer to shows canceled after one season. Who you foolin'? That's interesting. Is that true? Limited edition for being canceled after a single season instead of being bad. Josh Bing sends in a tip and says, Hey, John, I'm writing this Monday night. Not sure when you're reading this, but Wednesday I'm moving into my apartment in Florida for my grad school film MFA program at Full Sail. I know you're moving Friday as well. Best of luck. 2 of us both with moving. Well, I hope your move went well, Josh. Full Sail, does that mean you get to travel around the world? That'd be awesome. Congratulations. Good luck. Break a leg, as we say in show business, and make good movies. Japanese for life. I grew up being laughed at as a kid when I said I love Godzilla. They saw men flopping around in rubber suits, but I saw something else 20 plus years later, and my love for Godzilla as strong as ever. Thankful that the M-verse, the MonsterVerse, has brought new fans to the big G. Yes, indeed. I grew up loving Japanese science fiction of all kinds, whether it was things like Ultraman or kaiju movies. I mean, as a matter of fact, check this out. Let's see. Or did I move them? Oh, I think I moved them. I was going to say, oh no. One of the very first Japanese science fiction films, Warning from Space. Picked that up recently. I love me Godzilla. I love me some Japanese sci-fi. Josh Ward sends in a tip and says, someone needs to do a UFC-style tale of the tape for Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh, I'm sure somebody will. Height, weight, wins, losses, cities destroyed, feature film, supernatural powers, etc. Have Bruce Buffer introduce them and then let them fight. Hashtag Team Godzilla. Love the show. Josh, I think that is a capital idea, sir. I hope somebody does that. A Silly Goose sends in a tip and says, as much as I talk about the prequels, Rogue One is actually my favorite Star Wars movie. It came out in my final year in high school, back when life was simple. I saw it 6 times in theaters. It also had my favorite trailer of all time. Still makes me cry. You know what? I got to go with you there. I think Rogue One is probably my favorite of the Disney Star Wars movies. Absolutely. The real Michael Myers, says, hello, John. Congrats on the move and apologies for the WandaVision spoiler question. I usually watch you and Ann after the live stream, but it was my first time watching live. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. Who do you think will take the reins in the NFL after Tom the Goat Brady retires? It will be almost impossible for anyone to break his record for playoff wins. Mahone. The 4 closest players to his record already have retired, and Brady is still racking up playoff wins. I think Mahone, maybe we'll see. Fought Form sends in a tip and says, Happy Australia Day, January 26th, John. All right, mate. Me and my cockatiel, I just rounded out the day watching Razorback from director Russell Mulcahy of Highlander fame, shot in beautiful Broken Hill, Australia. I love Razorback. Russell Mulcahy also directed a movie like Seven, a serial killer movie called Resurrection with Christopher Lambert that I really like. Yeah, all of his trademark elements were there. Beautiful lighting and cinematography and those incredible scene transitions. Any theories on why talented people, even given breaks, never quite make it? Is it Highlander 2? Because not everyone directed that. Maybe, you never know. I think there's a lot of luck when it comes to the business in Hollywood. And some people don't even stick with it. They go into television. They want a simpler life. Getting movies made in Hollywood is rough. But Russell Mulcahy's had a really interesting career, and now he's directing a lot of TV. So a lot of directors, it's a hassle trying to get movies made, and then you want a more steady work, so you go into television. Also directed The Shadow. Couldn't leave that unsaid. Characters left over, so I know. My sister was an extra in Locusts, also shot in Broken Hill. I haven't seen it, but go watch. How bad could it be? There's a movie called Locusts that's set in Australia. I'm all for that. I lived in Sydney for a year when I was working on Superman Returns, and I love Australia. Although Locusts in Australia sounds terrifying. Why don't you make a movie called Huntsman Spider next? Yeesh. Ryan Lohner tipped $5 and says, Wayne Gretzky just turned 60, which means he still has another year before he's as old as the number of records he has. Wayne Gretzky. Wow, what a man. What a Canadian, right? He's a Canadian? Yeah, he is, right? He's the greatest hockey player ever lived. He's like the Pele of hockey. Corncob tipped, hello, I know comics don't mean much when it comes to the MCU. However, to explain the beekeeper suit in WandaVision having a sword logo is that in the comics, Sword has bought out AIM, the company, so it may be Sword using AIM technology to try and get in. Well, Corncob, we know from episode 4 who the beekeeper was, and he's working for Sword. He's a swordsman. Batman Murdered My Parent sends in a tip and says, there seems to be a lot of divisiveness on whether Batman and Superman should kill in their movies. I think this is because, like you pointed out, there are already stories where they strictly don't kill and ones where they have killed. Characters like Punisher and Deadpool kill, and people expect that out of those characters. But I think if we saw Spider-Man snap someone's neck on the big screen, it would be jarring. I think it would be a better choice just not to have Batman and Superman out here killing fools in the movies. That way you don't alienate a lot of the fan base. The added bonus would be that if you don't kill your main villain, you could always have them show up later in another movie. Your thoughts? Well, I think there's a lot of truth to what you say, but listen, like in the case of Man of Steel, what was Superman supposed to do with Zod? He's been Superman for a week. He doesn't really even know anything about himself, much less his powers, and then suddenly these Kryptonians show up using world engines and killing people and causing mass destruction. What was Superman going to do? It was either kill or be killed. The world was in the midst of an extinction-level event brought on by those Kryptonians. He had to kill. I don't see there's any other solution for him. GQ says, I know you don't like Netflix movies, but you have to give it up for their documentaries. I love them. I love Netflix documentaries. I just watched a crazy documentary. I want to say it was called Operation Odessa, about these real-life criminals and arms traffickers, and they tried to buy a Russian submarine, a military submarine, a Russian naval submarine, and sell it to drug runners in Colombia. You've got to watch this. It's incredible. The Wakandan Forever sends in a tip and says, have you heard anything on the Spawn movie? I love the animated series. Hope I haven't missed anything. P.S. You know you have to give us a tour of your new house and studio. You need to get a water slide for the pool. Laugh out loud. Have a good one. Well, let me tell you, I love the Spawn animated series, and I haven't heard much about the movie. I don't know where it's going to be. I really, really, really did not like the first film. So that's kind of a bummer. Jordan Handley sends in a tip and says, I think we can agree DC animation is bad. Seen an advertisement for Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it looked awful. So I checked the reviews with all giving 100% or 5 out of 5, so I checked it out, and I loved it. Very self-aware, very funny, wasn't bored, loved it, recommend. Well, Jordan, you know what? Something tells me when they were going to sit down, because I love like the Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited and stuff, but the movies, they've been a really hit and miss for me. But that sounds good. I'll totally watch that. Glenn Tracy sends in a tip and says, might sound old, but growing up, I remember my parents sometimes had 2 movies recorded on the same VHS tape. I used to do that. And the combos were mental. Did you ever have this? I remember having The Burbs, a Tom Hanks movie, and then Rocky 3 on the same tape. Man, when you tape stuff off cable back in the day, you could make the wackiest combinations of things. I certainly did that. I would tape things at the 6-hour speed so I could get 3 movies on a tape, because tapes when I was a kid were really expensive. Sonia sends in a tip and says, keep up the work. Sonia Hildebrand goes on and says, hey, John, I have a question about Kong versus Godzilla. Is the Kong that is shown in the Hollow Earth scenes an ancestor? Some people are saying it's Kong, but it looked like an older ancestor. What do you think? Sonia, I think that's really interesting. I think that's a very, like they talk about, there was a war at one point, and you have Kong, the hand being put up against the hand. I could very well be a flashback. I could totally see that. King Kong's Thong sends in a tip and says, hey, John, how they hanging? Well, if I'm wearing King Kong's thong, they're hanging well. They're hanging loose. These are my top 3 movies. 3 Jurassic Park, 2 Empire Strikes Back, and 1 Saving Private Ryan. Nowhere near the film buff as other people, but how would you rate this Movie Casual's top 3? I think those are all 3 very respectable movies. But yeah, they're all great. I love them all. And you are wearing King Kong's thong, so I wouldn't say anything bad, or I wouldn't be insulting. But those are 3 fine choices, sir. Terry Giordano says, hello, John. I'm happy to report that I am the proud owner of 1,000 shares of AMC stock at around $2. Even though I couldn't get to the movies, I like to think I supported them in some way and hope blue skies are ahead for them and us. Your studio is looking great. Terry, did you sell those stocks at $2? You sell them at like 17, 18, 19? You would have made a nice chunk of change there, son. Miguel Zayan says, hi, everyone. If y'all had the power to go back in time to do whatever with the prequels, which would you pick? Lucas getting Spielberg to direct episodes 2 and 3, Lucas getting other screenwriters to write screenplays for his treatments, or getting a different director? I would go back and I would have both different writers and directors on each, with Lucas overseeing. The author sends in a tip and says, how about that AMC stock? Do you still have it? I think John, they sold. They did well. Blake sends in a tip and says, hey there, wondering if you had a chance to read Light of the Jedi yet. I very much enjoyed the audiobook, and it's another reminder of how vast and limitless this world that came out of George Lucas's brain is. Thanks. I've not read Light of the Jedi. Is that one of the new High Republic books? I'm not sure, but I'm curious to check it out. I'll probably read it. Anonymous says, hello, John and family. With the WWE Network moving to Peacock's streaming platform, I wondered, what are your thoughts on that? Having customers pay another subscription fee just to view the network is problematic. Will this alienate existing customers? I don't think it will, because I think the Peacock has a lot of great stuff on it, and I think that they'll probably promote it. They'll put some money behind it, and it could be better. I mean, I can understand people are going to get sick of paying for more streaming services, but if the property's handled well, it could be a good thing. Daniel Williams sends in a tip and says, hi, John. I've only just watched the trial of the Chicago 7, and wow, I couldn't have liked it more. I've always appreciated Aaron Sorkin as a writer, but I had no idea he was this great of a director. He's made the jump from writer to director seamlessly. He has. I really like Trial of the Chicago 7 very much. I'm a big fan of his. I mean, I love the movies he wrote, like A Few Good Men and An American President. I love The West Wing. And I really like Molly's Game that he wrote and directed, and the Chicago 7's, I think it's definitely great. He's great at what he does. Garden Variety Vagabond sends in a tip and says, John and Rob, I'm seeing reports that the online Reddit buying push on GameStop and AMC has allowed AMC to issue over $300 million in shares. This raises their cash pool to almost $1 billion. What are your thoughts? I first read about GameStop on Rob's Twitter. Well, I'm glad you read my Twitter. Thanks, Garden Variety Vagabond. Look, I think that AMC was able to, despite all these shenanigans, was able to shore up its defenses to weather out at least another year, which is great for them. All of these stock shenanigans, hey, it all worked out for AMC, and I like to see that because, as we talked about a lot on the show, they invested $1 billion into, actually $5 billion into renovating their theaters and giving people a better experience of the movies. And I would like to be one of those people that gets to participate in that better experience. Scott Brown sends in a tip and says, I've loved He-Man since I was 5. It's my Star Wars. The movie was supposed to come out in March 2020, but still hasn't gone into production. I have to see this movie. What is a property you want to see get rebooted or made with every fiber of your being? I would love to see a live-action Gundam movie. I love Gundam. I'd love to see we got to see in Ready Player One in the virtual world. We got to see the RX-78 2 mobile suit, but I would love to see a Gundam movie, a real Gundam movie. Anthony says, a good documentary to check out is the one on Netflix about the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. That shit is scary. It gave me the chills because it's real. It definitely makes you check your windows and doors at night. People who just kill at random, that's terrifying. It is terrifying. That case is crazy as well. Crazy. Anthony sends in a tip and says, the recent news about GameStop kind of reminds me of the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. I'm not an expert on stocks, so I don't know how the two exactly relate to one another. Well, it is kind of like that. A lot of people got rich. A lot of people, well, like in Trading Places, they were left in the Poe house. There's a lot of people that lost a lot of money. A lot of I read one hedge fund was down by like 60% or something, which is crazy. Ryan Lohner said, so excited for Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer in the Sandman show, and to be clear, this is in fact based on the same version of Lucifer as the Tom Ellis one and Peter Stormare and Constantine. Yes, Ryan, it is one of my most eagerly awaited things. The Sandman is my favorite comic series of all time, and I cannot wait to see the Sandman series. Can't wait. Double Crit sends in a tip and says, hey, John, hope all is well at the new place. Started watching Godzilla 2014 to prep for Versus Kong, and surprise, Elizabeth Olsen is playing the main dude's wife. Then I realized her husband is also her MCU brother. I know they're just actors, but slightly awkward. I know, right? What crazy. I love Elizabeth Olsen. Luke1234 sends in a tip and says, tech question. Do you save every show that you do? If so, how long do you save them for? And do you use an HDD, SSD, or the cloud? And are you a fan of external or internal storage? I ask because I'm looking at the M1 Mac Mini for podcasting. Thank you. Luke, I got to tell you, I don't save any of my shows. They're archived on YouTube, and if something happens to YouTube and they go away, all my shows are gone. But I'll tell you, the drives that I use for my editorial are OWC drives, Otherworld Computing drives, and I love them. I have the RAIDs, I have their Thunder Bay, I use their Thunder Bay drives, and they're amazing. I think I'm running like literally 100, I'm not kidding, 100 terabytes because I use stuff for editing video and things like that in movies. Caleb sends in a tip and says, great movies I bet you haven't discussed in years. Breach with Chris Cooper and Ryan Phillippe, Death Trap with Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine, Way of the Gun with Benicio del Toro, and Don't Look Now with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. Thoughts? Well, let me tell you about that. I recently got Death Trap on Blu-ray, and I got Don't Look Now on 4K. And so I have been talking about those. Way of the Gun was directed by Chris McQuarrie. I love that movie. The one I haven't seen Breach. So I've never discussed it, but now that you've said so, I'm going to look for it because I like both Chris Cooper and Ryan Phillippe. Benjamin Mason sends in a tip and says, this episode is so far the most insightful. Although the exposition was a little corny to me, anyway, they clearly want us to believe that Wanda's in control of it all, but when she sees Vision's dead body, she acts all shocked. What do you make of this? I think Wanda is using this to process her grief. She's sequestered away somewhere where she can finally deal with the loss of her brother and the loss of Vision and everything that happened because of Infinity War and Endgame. And it all ties into this somehow, I think. The Wakandan Forever sends in a tip. John, get your guitar ready. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Dear Wakandan, happy birthday to you. That's right. It's my birthday. Wakanda is 1 year stronger and wiser. Love you guys. Wakanda forever. I'm right there with you. I have the throne of Wakanda and Shiri, the Shiri hot toy. They actually made a hot toy. Hot Toys made a throne of Wakanda, just the throne, and I had to get that. Lee Valentine sends in a tip and says, John, I hope the move goes well. Have you followed the news about Redditors buying shares of GameStop and AMC? We have indeed. They were nuking hedge funds and trading was halted to stop the Redditors. If stable, do tripled share prices affect AMC's odds of surviving? They do. AMC was able to use that to their advantage. Ray Stevens sends in a tip and says, hey, John, this is my first donating. I love the show. Well, thank you for that, Ray Steven. Very much appreciated. Thanks for supporting the show in this way. So far, WandaVision reminds me of one of my favorite songs called The State of Dreaming by Marina, in which the lyrics depict a similar situation. You probably haven't heard of it, laugh out loud. Well, I know Marina. I know this band. Marina was the name of the first girl I was ever madly in love with. Dark Fury EX sends in a tip and says, hey, John and Ann, big fan, and have watched your show ever since your Man of Steel review in 2013. Wow. Over under 60%, Doctor Strange will appear in the last episode of WandaVision to set up the multiverse of madness. I think I'm going to go over. We've heard reports. I think Doctor Strange is going to be in this show. Maybe not the only Avenger that we're going to see in this show. Other Avenger besides Wanda and Vision. Garden Variety Vagabond says, literally got goosebumps from Friday's episode of WandaVision. I certainly did. It was amazing. I loved it. Loved it. Garden Variety Vagabond says, John, be sure and listen to the end credits of WandaVision with headphones. 70s at its best. It's totally great. You're right about that. I haven't listened to it with headphones, but I will. Nick K sends in a tip and says, hey, John and Ann, big fan of the channel. I love how they're setting up Wanda to be the villain here, which she may very well be. But I believe there's more at play here than just her losing her mind. Who could benefit from her mental breakdown? I think that's a very, very good question. What are they looking for? Just to cause chaos and havoc? Then why do this whole thing? Why the ruse? I think there's a lot more to the show that we have yet to find out. But that's what's so much fun about it, is no one really knows. Daniel Davidson sends in a tip and says, you and your wife are wonderful people, and I think I'm not the only one who appreciates your positivity and honesty throughout every broadcast. Thank you for being you. Do you think they will ever reveal Magneto as Wanda's father at any point? I think they can, and they probably will, and I think they should. Francisco Valdez says, I had a fun theory that Wanda went back in time, pulled Vision from the past, mind-wiped him, and made herself a perfect little fantasy for herself in a pocket universe, but unknowingly breaks the space-time continuum and creates a multiverse of madness. I think you're probably not far off. I'll bet it's something like that. I think it's going to be I do think it's going to be something like that. Jason Lee sends in a tip and says, first, that opening took my breath away. Second, I think Wanda is playing both parts, herself and Vision. I think his ability to figure out what's wrong in WandaVision is based on Wanda's subconscious, knowing that everything is a product of her creation. I think that's a good bet. I bet you're close. It's something like that. Jason Lee goes on to say, I thought that Iron Man digging himself out of the grave in Homecoming was the most haunting single shot in the MCU, but the shot of dead Vision's corpse talking to Wanda has taken the crown. What say you? Dude, Jason, I'm right there with you. I thought it was haunting. And it was so unexpected. It was so you're just like, whoa, craziness. Jason Lee also says, there's something heartbreaking to consider. What if Vision does figure everything out, and at the end of the series, Wanda has to kill him again? Just might be the straw that breaks the witch's broomstick. Yikes. I think you could be onto something there. Sam sends in a tip and says, Vision is definitely real, maybe not the same body. The teaser for the next episode has shots where Vision is trying to get out of the energy field and drops to the ground once out. Maybe he's only alive when he's inside the town. Could very well be. It's going to be really interesting to see what all this is about. Ian Vinn says, the Sword director said that Maria helped start the organization and that Monica grew up there. So it had to be a little while after Captain Marvel that it was started. Oh, no, absolutely. I'm sure it was because of what happened in Captain Marvel. I still need toilet paper, sends in a tip and says, how can Vision try and plan a way out or try and stop Wanda if he is most likely something she is conjuring up? Does he even have free will, or does she control him? I thought he was an illusion of sorts she created in this reality. I think that's going to be a big part of what happens in the latter half of the series, and we shall see. I'm holding my tongue until I know more. Detroit Dog says, anyone that knows anyone in Westview no longer remembers them or even sees Westview anymore, but anyone else can, like Monica. But how does Wu see Westview, and why does he remember the guy he's looking for? Shouldn't he forget him like everyone else did? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. That's interesting. I still need toilet paper, says, also, just an idea or a thought. With the talk of there being high levels of cosmic radiation, is it possible Wanda has the power of all the Infinity Stones? I thought about that. I think definitely the Infinity Stones are going to come into play somehow because both Vision and Wanda got their powers from Infinity Stones in the MCU, so we shall see. 073 Media sends in a tip and says, could Wanda have expelled Monica to protect the others from the force causing this? Also, did you see the look of surprise on Wanda's face after using her powers? I think that it's all Wanda comment is a misdirect, and it seems too early and obvious. I think, again, this is a mystery that's being unraveled. I love seeing where it's going. I love all this speculation, and God love the MCU for bringing us something that's so thought-provoking. I really like it. Anonymous says, John, in WandaVision, Vision is an illusion. That is literally his magician's name, and I don't think that's an accident. You're probably right about that. Jake H. says, I was thinking about how Wanda could be the villain in Doctor Strange 2, and I have a theory. Could she find out that Strange gave Thanos the Time Stone, which led to Vision dying twice in Infinity War? Could she be looking for a person to blame? Could be. I like that thought. Nathaniel Monar sends in a tip and says, over or under 68%, Robert Downey Jr. voices a Jarvis-esque AI system in the Ironheart show. I'd go high on that. Maybe over 68%. Dakota sends in a tip and says, so maybe a big stretch here, but hear me out, John. So the rope on the guy going into the sewers came back as a jump rope, and Monica came back through still in 70s clothes. If Vision is dead, could he come back to our reality alive? Again, I don't know. Is it really Vision, or is it a manifestation that's been conjured up? I think it's hard to say. Chris sends in a tip and says, hey, John, love all you do. Whenever the Oscars happen, who would you want to host? I've been giving some thought lately, and I honestly love if they got Trevor Noah to host. Thoughts? Ooh, I like that. You know who I would love to see host the Oscars? Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. I would love Dave Chappelle to host the Oscars. I think it'd be great. I think everybody would tune in. I can only imagine how funny that show could be. Nina sends in a tip and says, my theory is that Wanda controls everything in Westview, but wasn't able to create this universe by herself. There's some entity with its own agenda that helped or nudged her in this direction and will play a role in the future MCU, the next big bad. I think that could be Catherine Hahn when she is revealed. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, hi, John. Watching the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, the show looked to lean too heavy on trying to recreate the sitcom flavor of the decades to the detriment of being good superhero offering. I let them world build, and yes, episode 3 and 4 hit. Wow, I'm invested. I know, man. All these people are like, I don't understand the show. And by episode 4, I'm like, what? Can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited to see it on Friday. Kevin Lewis sends in a tip and says, that last WandaVision statement was from me. But the question I have is, does its acclaim from Rotten Tomatoes and audiences raise your level of excitement for the other upcoming Marvel shows on Disney? A good question, Kevin. I think WandaVision shows they know exactly what they're doing, and I can't wait to see these next Marvel shows because I think they're going to be really, really good if WandaVision is any kind of indication. Kevin Lewis says, oh, that was you. You just said that. You said that. Patreon Alexander Kent sends in a tip and says, I agree. Mutants will not become relevant anytime soon. My opinion, we officially see mutants when Deadpool comes into the MCU. Do you think the MCU Deadpool X-Men movies continue to be R-rated? Well, they said they were going to be. Given audience and critics' success of previous movies, Logan and Deadpool, yeah, I think we know now that they're going to allow Deadpool to be R-rated. Trigpool sends in a tip and says, John, in the WandaVision trailers, we see lots of kids on Halloween, but none so far on the show. Could it be that in order to let Wiccan and Speed fit into this reality, Wanda has plucked kids from the real world, setting up the missing posters in Spider-Man 3? I think that's a distinct possibility. I think you're absolutely correct about that. Kevin Lewis sends in a tip and says, that Wanda statement was from me. As a follow-up, I thought for Monica Rambeau, it was pronounced Rambeau with emphasis. Rambeau with emphasis. It's not Rambo. It's Rambeau with an emphasis on the second syllable, since it's a French thing, not Rambo from the Stallone movies. What do you think? Yeah, it's Monica Rambeau. You're absolutely right. It's not Monica Rambeau. It's Monica Rambeau. Absolutely right. Anonymous sends, spoilers from WandaVision Episode 4. John, if that's not Vision's corpse and Wanda is imagining something that's not physically there, why doesn't she just imagine her brother back to this reality too? Makes me think it is his body. Either way, that was creepy. Well, I think it's because Wanda's brother is a human being and Vision is a machine, an android. So she can fathom having him there, but she couldn't conjure up somebody who's dead. I think that's at least that's the way I saw it. A2D2 says, in trailers for later episodes, Wanda says, "This is our home" to Vision, and then he says, "Well, let's fight for it." Can you imagine, from Sword's perspective, having a zombie Vision and crazy Wanda going after them in later episodes when they clash? Oh, I can imagine it, and I think it's going to be pretty terrifying. That's why the rest of the Avengers are going to get called in, or at least Doctor Strange. Willow is here. Willow sends in a very nice tip. Thank you, Willow. You're so generous. Congratulations on your new house and studio. Out of curiosity, are swimming pools a common feature in the area where you've moved? Do you plan on taking advantage of yours? Absolutely. We're Southern California, baby. We all have swimming pools. No, I'm just kidding. Francisco B says, now that we see what's happening outside of the bubble in WandaVision, what are the odds of having an episode from the perspective of a side character? Maybe see what life is like when they're not in the sitcom. I think we got that in episode 4, and I thought it was amazing. Garden Variety Vagabond sends in a tip and says, John, sad to see that Dr. Darcy Lewis Kat Dennings, after in-story standing up to be referred to by her title, is listed in the IMDb without her honorific doctor. It was clearly important to her. Hashtag Dr. Jill Biden. Absolutely. She should, man. Go into the IMDb and change that. Arjun sends in a tip and says, hey, John, just wondering if you've seen the new Netflix film, The White Tiger. I'm dying to see this. I instantly fell in love with it and can't get it out of my head since I saw it, but it doesn't seem like many people are really talking about it. Love the show as always. It's like a coming-of-age film set in India, right? It looks so good to me. Sergeant Ward says, hey, John, Armie Hammer has 2 movies coming up, Death on the Nile and Next Goal Wins. After the allegations against him, can't they just reshoot his scenes with another actor just like Kevin Spacey? Their dates are far away and he's not the lead in them. Yeah, he's also got another movie coming out called Crisis that I saw the trailer for. I don't know what they're going to do about that. What a wacky case this is. Anonymous, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Anonymous says, thoughts on the WandaVision leaks. Won't say what stuff because spoilers, but it's really frustrating that stuff got out. Still lots more elements to the show, I suppose. Why does this happen? You know, I don't know, and I'm beginning to get increasingly more frustrated. I've really been enjoying WandaVision and not knowing what's happening, and then these potentially monstrously huge spoilers get released, and I'm like, really? Did you really feel the need to do that? I mean, I'm really getting tired of people leaking stuff in advance like that. I really am. And I've been guilty of it in myself, but I'm getting sick of it. Especially when you're getting a show every week. Just shut up. Let us all enjoy it. Why be a destroyer of joy? Wesley Cunningham says, if you haven't, check out One Night in Miami. That's Regina King's directorial debut on Prime. First 15 minutes or so are lighter, somewhat unassuming, but I was literally leaning forward in my chair the last hour. Some of the most arresting drama I've seen from a while, from 4 men in a room talking. It's like, isn't it? It's Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke, Malcolm X, and I forget the 4th man, but I want to see it. I can't wait to see it. Garden Variety Vagabond says, I've started this year watching all the Star Wars movies again, as well as the animated series for the first time, all in order. It's the Leia-Rey hug. I feel that they were not consoling each other. Leia was consoling a young woman who lost her father figure. Yeah. I'm glad you're... What a fun journey to take. Some dude sends in a tip and says, if the terms that they have to release a new Spider-Man movie in X amount of years, could Sony lose the rights if they keep delaying their Spider-Man films? They'd probably have to ask Marvel for an extension. They wouldn't, because it's not so much being releasing them as making them. See, they've already made them, so they've fulfilled their obligation. It's not their fault that they can't release the films in theaters. Disney understands that, but they've made the films. Dragon Llama says, hi, John. Congrats on the move. I was thinking more about WandaVision episode 4 and was thinking that the backstory for Monica Rambeau may be very meaningful. Just like Wanda, she has just lost nearly everything and she is left without any closure. There's also this odd symmetry as Wanda had the events viscerally take place right in front of her, whereas Monica disappeared only to return to find her mother dead. It feels too coincidental for that not to come into play later in the season. Oh, I think it will come into play. Absolutely. And by the way, that's a very astute observation you made, so thank you for that. Benny S. says, rewatched all episodes of WandaVision. Note Wanda saying to Dottie, I don't want to hurt anyone at the pool. These people are obviously hostages of sorts, and Dottie seemed to be standing up to her saying, I don't believe you. I think you're right. Also, it seems Wanda's powers kept Monica safe while ejecting her from the town. Take a look. You see her powers wrapping around Monica as she flies through the wall. Starting to get some Darth Vader redemption vibes from this whole story arc already. I think you're probably not wrong about that or any of that. Mr. Mystery says, my favorite thing about WandaVision is that it focuses on the mental aspect of Wanda's powers. That is unique, different, and paves the way for a very interesting story using superheroes in an all-new way. I agree again, 100%. Look, what I love about WandaVision so much is you can tell how much thought has actually been put into it. And as opposed to say, oh, I don't know, Star Trek Discovery. It's great TV. NGF Mike says, hey, John, one of three. Here's my theory for how WandaVision, Spidey 3, and Doctor Strange all connect. Westview is a pocket universe created by Wanda. By the end of the show, instead of her accepting Vision's death, she realizes she can open doors to the multiverse and decides she's going to find a new Mind Stone to bring Vision back to life. In doing so, she creates small tears in the multiverse, which allows Doc Ock, Electro, and Maguire and Garfield Spideys to come into the MC universe. Doctor Strange and Spidey 3 fixes the small tears, sends everyone back to their respective universes, which leads into the Multiverse of Madness, where Doctor Strange is racing to stop Wanda from getting the Mind Stone and undoing the fabric of this reality. Bruh, that sounds good. I love it. Love that idea. It's great theory. Love it. I think you're onto something. Ronald Dump sends in a tip and says, hey, John, my new theory for WandaVision is that Agnes is Madam Web. That would be a perfect connection to Spider-Man as well as the multiverse. What are your thoughts? I don't think so. I don't think they'd release someone or They would introduce Madam Web in this way. But you never know. But I don't think so. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, so you're telling me that if you had the power to create or take over a small town and create your own false ideal reality where you live with the man of your dreams and had his babies, that you wouldn't do it? I don't think I'd do it. I wouldn't do it. I think that's something Ann said. I wouldn't do it. Ryan Lohner sends in a tip and says, I love that the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer barely even tries to pretend to be about anything except the one reason anyone was ever interested in this movie. Someone was taking notes during a love story. Yes, indeed. I watched your WandaVision 2 concerning the witness in protection guy. My theory is, what if Hawkeye is the witness in protection? At the beginning of Endgame, he had an ankle bracelet. He went Ronin for 5 years, so the FBI was checking up on him. I like that idea. I think that's a good idea. That was actually from Wanta Wanda Witness. Wanta Wanda Witness send that in. Koa1708 says, with all the crazy stuff that's happening with AMC stock, did it help AMC's chance of survival? We talked about it. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Gav from Sydney sends in a tip and says, or Sid, maybe not Sydney. I think whatever Wanda creates in Westview remains real if it leaves Westview based on how Monica was in her 70s outfit when she got ejected, but she was sucked in with her modern clothes and the wire attached to the beekeeper was transformed to a skipping rope. I agree with you. I think that she's actually changing reality. And if just like the whole town has changed, and if you were to be ejected out, your reality's been changed. So the clothes would be changed. Whatever she did to you, that's what they did. They don't revert back. Joe Sanchez says, hey, John, I went and saw The Little Things on Saturday and thought it was a decent movie. It made me more interested in Rami Malek and his other stuff, so I'm about to start watching Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot is great. I don't want to tell you very much about it, but Mr. Robot is great. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. JL Rodas sends in a tip. Well, thank you very much for that, JL. Very, very, very generous. Hi, John. Big fan. First time commenting. For Vision to be suspicious, he must be an entity by himself, not just Wanda's manifestation. Good point. I agree with you. If manifested at Wanda's will, he'd be just another piece of the set, not capable of questioning anything. I agree. I totally agree with you, JL, but I think there's a lot we really don't yet know about this whole thing. What is actually going on? JL goes on to say, what if, as your very own Anne said one day, he's in a box, maybe a hard drive, where his seminal Jarvis Ultron consciousness was once stored? I'd like that. Big hug and an even bigger thanks to you all at your show. So amiable, lovely people. Well, JL, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you. But these are very good theories, though. You know, the idea that the Vision is in a box, Jarvis Ultron, and she's conjured him up from his, I like that. I think that's a really good idea. Like, so it really is him but she conjured his body, but it's his I guess his electronic soul, you'd call it. I love that idea. I think it's really, really good. Sergeant Ward says, one of two. I heard Jason Blum say that movie theaters can survive the era of streaming if every studio sticks to a 3-week theatrical plan. He even said that genres that are lost to streaming, like drama and rom-coms, can come back to theaters. God love him, I hope so. I have some mixed feelings about this, but I trust Jason Blum. Sorry if this wasn't explained well, so here's the article. Sergeant Ward is referring, you can see it up there. You can find the article on this. I can't post the link for you, but there's the article. Let me put that down in the middle. So there you can see it right here. So you can check that out. Well, thanks, Sergeant Ward. Appreciate that. And I think Jason Blum could be right. A 3-week schedule, so movies. But then again, these movies would have to not be nearly as expensive as, say, big Hollywood blockbusters. That would be the only way you could really get away with doing it. M. Burt says, I can't help thinking about the origin of Wanda starting her world. Do you think we will see her leaving Tony's funeral alone? Everyone else leaves to something, like a widow leaving a funeral. Like a widow leaving a funeral. Thanks. M. Burt, I like that. I like that idea. That maybe it was actually Tony Stark's funeral that put her over the edge. I mean, how much more loss can she take and feel responsible for it? Look at how Thor felt. Nathaniel Molnar says, you've said before that Spider-Man 3 is the next film in the story, precluding Strange from being in WandaVision. However, before COVID, Strange 2 is going to be released in May 2017, just after WandaVision, with Spider-Man in July 2017. Does this change anything? I don't think it does. I think they've got it all figured out. I'm not worried about that at all. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I trust in Feige. Dakota says, hey, John, what are your thoughts on actors like Paul Giamatti or Steve Buscemi? For some reason, I find them just very underrated. I love them both. I've always loved Paul Giamatti, and I love Steve Buscemi. Paul Giamatti was even in the movie Singles in like 1990. And Steve Buscemi is always great, whether he's in Reservoir Dogs or Ghost World. I mean, he's just a terrific, terrific actor. Caleb says, who says this? When you get married, you realize a wife is like a herpes sore. She comes and goes where and when she pleases. I don't know that. I don't know who says that, Caleb. But that's funny. Godzilla. Oh, wait, who says this? Abe10 Alpha sends in a tip and says, Godzilla, save Mothra. Save Mothra. King Kong. Why did you say that name? Yep, the joke that just keeps on giving or taking away in certain cases. Possibility is better than probability. Possibility over probability sends in a tip and says, if Maria can prepare a government protocol for when her snapped people return based solely on her hope belief, I think Hawkeye could keep a phone charging in a spot his wife frequently occupies. He's needed that last hope. Plus, I don't think he's living check to check. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think it's probably true. Probably right. He probably has a phone that he just left plugged in. Benjamin Mason sends in a tip and says, hey, John, as I continue to watch WandaVision, I realize that this show made me have some more intrigue than that of, say, Falcon and Winter Soldier or Loki. The mystery alone makes it far more enjoyable than a lot of what Marvel has put out. I agree, Benjamin. I think you're absolutely right about that. I think the show is fascinating. I'm completely engaged. I find myself thinking about it. I'm glad it takes a week between episodes so we can ponder it all. Really enjoying it. Austin Knows sends in a tip and says, John, I don't know if you've seen the film Freaky starring Vince Vaughn, but I have to admit I found myself quite enjoying it. I enjoyed it on the level my older brother surprised it with me on my birthday. I'd give the film 7.5 out of 10. Austin, I've heard nothing but good things about Freaky. I can't wait to see it. I heard Vince Vaughn just knocks it out of the park. Jet Shadow 82 says, I think Wanda approached Avengers for help. Doctor Strange specifically would not, arguing morality or costs, making her feel more alone, betrayed, desperate, and without a home, creating a villain. Has glimpses of doubt, but the alternative is unbearable. I think you might be right. There's probably a lot of truth to that, too. Sarcastic Satire sends in a tip and says, John Campea's top 5 favorite films from the past 5 years. 1. Assassin's Creed. 2. Lady Bird. 3. Sorry to Bother You. 4. Baywatch. And 5. Rise of Skywalker. Well, sir, that is why you are Sarcastic Satire. JMeister25 says, Wanda is powerful, but not fully. Perhaps her attempt to maintain a dimension the size of a town and then some isn't stable, creating splits in the space-time continuum with new villains looking in. The bill comes due, warned Mordo. Feige does love TNG. That's a very good point. I think that there could be something, definitely something to that. Not Kevin Feige sends in a tip and says, with Marvel now getting the rights to Sword back after the Fox merger, where is Abigail Brand? Good question. I think, look, I don't think anything is off the table now. But remember, we've only had 4 episodes with Sword as an active player. So we got to give it time. Ismail Yatu says, hi, John. Paul Bettany said in a few interviews that we will be seeing a big secret actor with whom he's never worked with before show up in the back end of WandaVision. I know you don't believe it'll be Doctor Strange, so who else do you think it could be? Good question. I mean, I would think Paul Bettany had worked with Benedict Cumberbatch, but I will see. I don't know who it could be. If it's somebody new, I have no idea. The Everything Nerd sent in a tip and says, I just finished season 1 of The Mandalorian with my girlfriend. Safe to say, Baby Yoda obsession is in hyperdrive. On to season 2. Keep up the great work. Did you tell her Baby Yoda's name is Grogu yet, or are you saving that one? Miguel Zion says, congrats on the new house. Did you see any movies while you were on break? Have you seen One Night in Miami? I don't know if John has. I haven't yet. If yes, what do you think of the performances? Oscar noms? I heard that the performances are great. I'm looking forward to it. Have you seen Nomadland? Excited for Eternals? If not, it's fine. You're great. Always watch your show. I haven't seen Nomadland, but I'm really curious to see it. I'm dying to see Eternals, so I'm really hoping Chloe Zhao, gets all the credit she deserves. I hope the movie's great. Kung Fu Hot Dog says, hey, John, I love WandaVision Episode 4, but hated Darcy Lewis, PhD. She acts like a dick by putting people down who are less intelligent than her, but what made me laugh is how no one gave a crap when she was asking for a coffee. Hope your new house is rad. Well, I got to tell you, I love Darcy Lewis. I thought she was great. I thought she was acting the way she should act, but, I mean, everybody's kind of like snarky in the show. But I kind of saw it as that was their defense mechanism dealing with all the wackiness. But I loved Kat Dennings' performance. I really did. Ryan Lohner says, I get the sense that The Little Things would have been seen as really hard-hitting when it was first written back in the 90s. But these days my response is more, so I'm supposed to be shocked that cops sometimes do bad things? Because I'm really not. Yeah, Ryan, I felt exactly the same way you did. I wanted to love The Little Things, and it just seemed, Nicholas Prieria says, hi, John. I don't always agree with you, but I have to say, what? I'm impressed with the number of hours you spend chatting alone in front of your camera. Even Anne doesn't seem to be as patient as you. Respect, man. Really. Nicholas, I really appreciate you saying that. I know you're not saying it to me, but believe me, I feel the same way. Hearing somebody appreciate that you sit in front of a camera and talk into it all day by yourself, thank you for saying so. Nolar sends in a tip and says, I just want to thank you for inspiring me to make a YouTube channel. From that, I started a gaming news company with my fellow YouTube colleagues, and we've made 21,000 subs on YouTube and 20,000 followers on Twitch in the first 4 months. Even though I can't watch religiously like I used to, I'm glad to catch a show whenever I can. Congrats on the home, and here's to 2021 being better for everyone. Well, thanks, Nolar. And by the way, congratulations on your efforts paying off. Very cool. Calvin Galbraith sends in a tip and says, hey, John, longtime viewer, first-time questioner. Do you think Marvel shows such as Falcon and the Winter Soldier and What If will go on a break for Star Wars The Bad Batch? Or will they release Marvel and The Bad Batch episodes at the same time? Thanks. Well, I think for a while they're going to just keep it staggered. They're not going to play off one against the other because I think they're having great success doing it the way they're doing it. Eric Benson sends in a nice tip. Thank you, Eric. Hey, John, I must have missed it in episode 4 about what sword is in WandaVision. That is what happens when watching WandaVision while also talking about what is happening with the wife. I have to rewatch episode 4. Here's a spot to plug for your movie. Well, you know what? We did make this movie. John made a movie, and I was in it, called Movie Trailers A Love Story. It's available everywhere. You can get it on Amazon, and for those viewers around the world, you can get it on Vimeo. So please check it out. We worked very hard on it and hope you really like it. Murray Reich sends in a tip and says, I'm still waiting for Wanda to renounce her wish so her whole fantasy land of hers ends. I know, right? Well, we'll see. Yeah. Renounce her wish. It'll all go away. Garrett sends in a tip and says, hello, John. Even though WandaVision doesn't have post-credit scenes, do you think it's tied into the proper MCU? Yes. Do you think that the Phase 4 movies might have them? Oh, I don't think they're going to give it up. I'll be willing to bet the last episode of WandaVision has a post-credit scene. P.S. The new studio looks great, and I've been a fan since the Collider days. Well, thanks, Garrett. That was from Garrett, who sent in a tip. Thank you. Claudius is here. Claudius sends in a tip and says, bonjour, Robert. Bonjour, Johnny Robert. Congrats on the new studio. Well, thank you, Claudius. I appreciate that. Alan sends in a tip and says, hi, John and Rob. I watched your show yesterday, and your topic on Tomb Raider got me thinking. Why are movies like Tomb Raider and Sonic getting sequels and not Detective Pikachu? It made money and did pretty well. What gives? Maybe they just couldn't catch everything they needed to catch to make another Pikachu movie. I know. I'm here all week. Hugh, to be honest, I don't know the answer to that. It could be a rights issue or something, or maybe that they didn't want to get the talent back, or I don't know. Maybe we will see another one, or maybe they'll make a direct-to-video sequel. Don't give up hope if you want to see another. Honey Badger don't care. Hi, John. Talking about WandaVision again. Sorry. When the crane appeared, Wanda was unable to make it go away, and when she tried, red dust appeared. Isn't that the manifestation of Mephisto's magic, while hers is red light? I don't know. That's very. We don't know. I have no idea, but I do find that interesting. I know other people have talked about that. We shall see. Very, very interesting. Sub McShave says, your 7-hour WandaVision stream shows why weekly releases for established franchises. That's exactly right, Stubble. Binge release wouldn't have generated buzz. People would just watch the next episode instead of speculating for a week. There's still a place for binge releases for non-franchises. I agree. I think that was a perfect choice to release this the way they did, because I'm talking about even now. I've been talking about nothing else for 4 weeks with people. Blake Mason sends in a tip and says, hello to you and Rob. First time submitting a question. Have you had the chance to check out Warrior on HBO Max? I have not yet. Fantastic show based on the writings of Bruce Lee. Aired on Cinemax, but last year was picked up by HBO. Amazing action, great characters. Yeah, I need to catch up with that. Everyone tells me to watch Warrior. That it's really, really cool. And I need to see it. Danny Santos says, in WandaVision, did you hear Monica Rambeau mention that they had lost a few astronauts in space? Could it be Marvel setting up the Fantastic Four? That's very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to have to go watch that and hear. I'm going to have to listen to that for that again. Russell Amador sends in a tip and says, hey, John, 2020 didn't have a lot of great new movie offerings like the previous year, so decided to revisit 2016 and finally saw A Monster Calls. I love A Monster Calls. Wow, what an amazing movie. I really enjoyed it. It was such a deep movie with solid performances. You are right. I loved A Monster Calls. I think it's so great. Kyrian321 sends in a tip and says, hey, John, long time, first time. Congrats on the move. In WandaVision, I would love it if Ralph was shown on the Halloween episode in fancy dress as the devil, not confirming anything, just a nod to the audience. You know what? Maybe that will happen. One never knows. Well, listen, everyone, I want to thank you for putting up with me. I know I'm not John, but I hope I'm the next best thing. I want to thank you all for your generous support of the John Campea Show and the whole channel. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to John. It means a lot to Aaron. It means a lot to Chris. I mean, we couldn't do it without you. Ray, Fact Checker Jonathan, all of us here at the John Campea Show. Thank you all for your generous support. We very much appreciate you watching. I have been Robert Meyer Burnett. You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube show, Robservations, which is on my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work. And while you're there, check out the first intergalactic Imagination Connoisseurs Film Festival. Viewers like you made films. There's over 52 original films on the channel that you can check out now. Thanks very much, and as always, have a better day. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. Thanks a lot.